The air outside the Ed Sullivan Theater was electric. Paparazzi flashes erupted like miniature fireworks against the early evening sky, capturing the glimmer of Hollywood royalty as it made its way up the steps. Jennifer Lawrence, one of the most recognizable faces in the world, emerged from the waiting stretch limousine, her stride both confident and measured, her expression a delicate balance between warmth and restraint. A soft breeze lifted strands of her hair, and for a moment the chaos around her seemed almost cinematic, like a moment frozen in time. Fans pressed against the velvet ropes, some holding homemade signs with bold declarations of affection, others clutching their phones, hoping to capture a viral-worthy photo or a glimpse of the Oscar-winning actress. The camera cuts in slow motion, lingering on Jennifer's face, noting the slight tension at the corners of her mouth, the subtle furrow of her brow. On the surface, everything seemed routine, a celebrity arriving at a late-night show, but underneath, there were hints that this night would not unfold according to script. The narration underscores the stakes. Jennifer Lawrence, beloved for her candidness and quick wit, walking into a live interview with Stephen Colbert, a host celebrated for his playful, teasing style. A collision of personalities was imminent. Even the most poised stars can falter under the weight of expectation. The narrator intones as archival clips of Jennifer's past interviews flicker on the screen. We see moments where she laughed off uncomfortable questions, delivered biting comebacks with charm, and occasionally let her frustration slip through the cracks. Each clip reminds viewers that Jennifer is unafraid to speak her mind, and that her candor has occasionally provoked viral headlines. This isn't just another interview. It is a calculated dance on the razor's edge of live television. Cut to Stephen Colbert, seen through backstage footage, adjusting his suit, chatting lightly with producers. His trademark smile is steady, a mask of effortless humor, yet the team knows the unpredictability of live guests. The narration highlights their contrasting styles. Colbert, quick with jokes and improvisation. Lawrence, candid, unfiltered, and impatient with insincerity. The stage is set not just for an interview, but for a clash of energy, personalities, and expectations. As Jennifer steps onto the stage, the audience erupts. The camera captures the wide-eyed excitement, the cheers that fill the theater, the flashes that explode across the set. Jennifer waves, her smile polite yet controlled, and takes her seat. The lights reflect off her sequined gown, glittering under the stage lights. The host introduces her with warmth. "Ladies and gentlemen, Jennifer Lawrence." Applause swells. But in the back of the room, a subtle tension lingers, imperceptible to casual viewers, but palpable to those who know the nuances of celebrity interviews. Through cinematic overlays, the documentary shows past encounters with Colbert. A 2015 interview clip plays briefly. Colbert teasing Lawrence about her love of video games, her sarcastic retort leaving the audience laughing. Then, a more awkward moment from 2018, when a joke about a movie role caused her visible discomfort. These flashes remind viewers of a pattern. Jennifer is charming but fiercely protective of her boundaries. Colbert, whether intentionally or not, treads a line between humor and provocation. The narration pauses, letting the tension hang. The camera lingers on Jennifer's hands, resting lightly on her lap, fingers slightly tapping, a small but telling sign of anticipation. The audience doesn't yet know, but something about the questions to come will push her patience to its limit. Every step she took on that red carpet, every flash captured, every cheer heard in that theater, was a prelude to an incident that would quickly spiral across social media, timelines, and dominate news cycles. In the quiet moments before the interview begins, the documentary zooms in on the atmosphere, the hum of the cameras, the shuffling of the crew, the low murmur of anticipation. Jennifer inhales slowly, centering herself. Live television, the narration reminds us, is a battlefield disguised as entertainment. Every word matters. Every expression can ignite debate. The audience at home, entirely unaware of the psychological stakes unfolding before them, braces unknowingly for what is about to come. Finally, the stage lights brighten, the camera pans to Colbert, and the iconic theme music fades. Jennifer leans forward slightly, her expression poised, ready to engage. The opening dialogue begins innocuously enough, a compliment, a light joke. But subtle undercurrents ripple through every interaction. Jennifer's eyes flick briefly to the production crew, her lips pressing together as she weighs her words. Colbert's tone is casual, teasing, but each line, each laugh, each pause builds toward an invisible crescendo. The documentary closes the chapter with an aerial view of the theater, the audience bathed in golden light, the stage set like a chessboard. In this game, the narrator intones, no move is without consequence. And tonight, a single exchange would ripple far beyond the theater, into the endless feeds of social media, news, and public conversation. The calm before the storm had ended, and Jennifer Lawrence was about to remind the world that live television is never truly scripted. The lights of the Ed Sullivan Theater blaze, illuminating a stage meticulously crafted to feel intimate yet larger than life. Jennifer Lawrence sits in her signature poised manner, legs crossed, hands resting lightly on her lap, the sequins of her gown catching the light with every subtle movement. The audience is alive with excitement, murmurs rippling through the theater as cameras pan across faces filled with anticipation. On the other side, Stephen Colbert, with his practiced grin, sits comfortably behind his desk, microphone angled just so, coffee mug in hand, exuding effortless charm. To viewers at home, it seems like just another late-night interview, but the tension in the room is palpable. Jennifer Lawrence, welcome back to the show. Colbert begins, his voice warm, playful, a hint of mischief in his eyes. Applause washes over the set, and for a moment, Jennifer smiles, a genuine, though measured, expression. The opening moments are cordial, a dance of polite humor and familiar banter. Colbert references her recent projects, allowing Jennifer to share anecdotes about her latest film and experiences on set. Her laughter is bright, infectious, yet beneath the surface lies a subtle vigilance. She's a star who knows her worth, and she's aware of the fine line between entertainment and intrusion. The narration leans in, guiding viewers to the nuances of body language and timing. The slight furrow of Jennifer's brow as Colbert transitions from professional to personal topics, the way her fingers lightly tap against the armrest, the brief pause before she responds. It is a high-stakes game of conversation, a live performance where every smile and silence is magnified. Live television is a pressure cooker, the narrator intones. Each interaction, each joke, has the potential to ignite admiration or backlash in seconds. Colbert, sensing the opportunity for humor, begins to press on more personal territory. So, Jennifer, he says with a teasing grin, how's life treating you outside the camera? Any new romantic escapades you want to share with the audience? The question, though framed lightly, carries weight. Jennifer's eyes flicker, a micro-expression almost imperceptible to casual viewers, but caught by high-definition cameras. She smiles politely, then counters with her signature wit. You know, Stephen, my love life is about as interesting as watching paint dry. But thanks for asking. Laughter ripples through the theater, applause punctuating her response. Yet the narrative tension begins to mount. The documentary cuts to slow-motion footage. Jennifer leaning back slightly, lips pressed together, eyes scanning the audience. Colbert, oblivious or perhaps deliberately unaware, presses on, attempting to weave humor from personal curiosity. He references previous interviews, poking lightly at rumors and viral moments. The narration emphasizes the subtle shift in energy. What began as a friendly exchange now carries an undercurrent of discomfort. Jennifer is no stranger to media scrutiny, and while she navigates it with grace, her patience is quietly measured against the teasing tone. Archival intercuts illustrate Jennifer's prior experiences in live interviews, times when curiosity overstepped boundaries and viral headlines were born. A flashback to a 2013 award show interview shows a similar pattern. Jennifer responding to probing questions with humor, masking mild irritation. Another clip highlights her unapologetic candor. In an interview with a different late-night host, where she deflected an invasive question with a biting joke that went viral. These sequences serve as foreshadowing. Viewers begin to sense that even the most celebrated celebrity has limits, and the stage is set for a confrontation that will feel raw and unscripted. As the interview progresses, Colbert escalates subtly, leaning into questions about Jennifer's public persona and the pressure of fame. Jennifer, you've talked openly about how much the industry can grind you down. How do you keep your sense of self? He asks. The audience applauds. The question seems innocuous. But Jennifer's posture shifts, her hands clasped tighter. Her smile tightens just enough to signal a rising edge of frustration. She responds diplomatically. I try not to let it get to me. It's a job, and like any job, there are parts you love, parts you tolerate. Her tone is measured, but the camera captures a flash of exasperation in her eyes. The narration draws attention to the delicate dance unfolding. Colbert, the seasoned host, reads these cues, adjusting his approach, attempting humor as a pressure release. The tension in live interviews often lies in these micro moments. The narrator explains. A raised eyebrow, a pause, a forced laugh each is a signpost of an unspoken battle between control and authenticity. Jennifer continues to answer questions with poise, occasionally injecting her trademark sarcasm to diffuse the pressure. Yet every joke, every careful response is a thread in a larger tapestry that will soon unravel. A pivotal moment arrives when Colbert references a viral meme about Jennifer's candid personality. You've been called Hollywood's most honest star, sometimes brutally honest. Any regrets letting the world see the real you? He asks, leaning forward, tone playful but probing. The audience chuckles, but Jennifer's response is sharper than expected. Regrets? Not really. People like to frame honesty as a flaw. I just call it being human. The words carry weight, a subtle challenge to the host's framing. And for a fraction of a second, the air in the theater thickens. The audience senses that something is simmering beneath the surface. The documentary intersperses social media, reactions in real time. Tweets pop up on screen, emojis and GIFs punctuating fans' reactions, creating a layered sense of immediacy. Live television is no longer just about the studio audience, the narrator notes. Every word is magnified, dissected, and shared instantly. The stakes are global, instantaneous, and relentless. The visual montage captures fans reacting at home, sharing clips, debating tone, and speculating on what Jennifer might do next. The camera alternates between Jennifer and Colbert. Stephen, reading her subtle cues, attempts to steer back into lighter territory, cracking a joke about filming schedules and on-set mishaps. Jennifer laughs, but her laugh is measured, a delicate mask over rising tension. She leans slightly away from Colbert, a subtle signal the cameras catch. Body language betrays internal negotiation, weighing politeness against frustration. The narrator emphasizes this point. In moments like these, authenticity and decorum collide. The audience watches both the performance and the performer's reaction, often in real time, without a script to soften the edges. By the midpoint of the interview, a noticeable energy shift occurs. Colbert's questions begin to tread closer to personal boundaries. Comments about relationships, public perception, and past controversies. Jennifer responds with practiced candor, occasionally redirecting the conversation, yet the subtle irritation begins to surface. The audience, familiar with her reputation, senses a growing tension, a foreshadowing of what is to come. Her eyes occasionally dart toward stagehands, an almost imperceptible signal that she is measuring the situation. The documentary uses dramatic slow-motion shots and close-ups to emphasize these cues. A tightened jaw, a brief pause before speaking, fingers drumming lightly on the chair. All these micro-moments are magnified in cinematic storytelling, underscoring the pressure cooker environment of live television. Even seasoned actors, used to scripted dialogue and multiple takes, face a unique challenge on live television. The narrator explains, "The unpredictability is relentless, the exposure immediate, and the stakes, both personal and public, are monumental." As the interview draws toward the exchange that will define the episode, Colbert, perhaps unknowingly, sets the stage for conflict with an innocuous yet pointed question. A playful jab at Jennifer's candid reputation, it carries undertones of challenge. The camera lingers on her subtle reaction, a brief tightening of her lips, a sharp blink, a controlled inhale. The theater audience, oblivious to the exact meaning, feels a ripple of tension, a subconscious anticipation of a shift in energy. Social media posts begin to hint at rising drama. Hashtags trend, clips are shared, and speculation begins to swirl online. The chapter closes with a cinematic panorama, the stage fully lit, audience members leaning forward in anticipation. Jennifer, poised yet visibly on edge, and Colbert's smile maintaining its practiced charm, unaware that the micro-tension of the last several minutes is about to erupt. The narrator's voice swells. In these moments, the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary. A single question, a fleeting glance, a subtle shift in tone each can spark a reaction that reverberates far beyond the theater, across the globe in real time. The calm had ended, and the storm was about to break. The tension in the Ed Sullivan Theater had reached a subtle, almost imperceptible boiling point. The cameras cut between Jennifer Lawrence's poised composure and Stephen Colbert's ever-smiling, casually teasing demeanor. The audience, sensing a shift in energy, leaned forward in anticipation, their cheers quieter now, replaced by an almost tangible curiosity. In these fleeting moments, the theater seemed suspended in a delicate balance. One misstep could tilt the scales, sending the interview from charming banter to unforgettable confrontation. Colbert leaned slightly forward, resting his elbows on the polished desk. "Jennifer," he said, voice light but pointed, "you're famous for being brutally honest. Sometimes the things you say get, let's say, taken out of context." His gaze flicked to the audience, inviting laughter. "So, when someone calls you Hollywood's most unpredictable star, how do you respond without, I don't know, shocking everyone?" A polite chuckle rolled through the audience, but the camera captured a micro-expression on Jennifer's face, a tightening of her jaw, a barely perceptible narrowing of her eyes. She tilted her head slightly, weighing her words, aware of the millions watching live. Her tone, calm but edged with restrained intensity, cut through the levity. "I don't really think about what people call me," she said. "I just am who I am. If that shocks people, it's on them, not me." Her words carried firmness, a subtle pushback against the framing of Colbert's question. The narrator emphasizes the significance. In live television, even a single statement can ignite global reaction. Every pause, every inflection, every blink is amplified across screens, shared across feeds, dissected by millions. The documentary cuts to real-time social media overlays. Tweets and clips flash by with reactions ranging from applause, emojis to heated debates about the exchange. The tension is amplified for the viewers at home. Sense the undercurrent before it erupts. Colbert, seasoned in reading the room, smiled, slightly leaning back. So unpredictability is just part of your charm, he said. People never really know what's coming next. A bit like, well, a box of chocolates that bites back. The joke lands unevenly. The audience laughs, but there is an almost imperceptible shift. Jennifer's smile tightens. A laugh escapes her, polite but clipped. Her eyes flash briefly toward the side of the stage where producers exchange quick glances. Noting the rising tension, the documentary pauses on these subtle cues. Body language often tells the story that words cannot, the narrator explains. A smile can mask frustration. A glance can communicate everything unspoken. And for Jennifer, every subtle movement was a negotiation between composure and calm. Instinct. Then came the line that would ignite the controversy. Colbert, leaning forward again, with his tone light but undeniably pointed, remarked, "So, being brutally honest, does it ever get exhausting having everyone dissect your every move? Or is it just fun watching people freak out?" The words, intended perhaps as playful teasing, hit a nerve. The camera captures Jennifer's eyes narrow slightly, lips pressed, together in a controlled exhale. A long pause ensues, suspended in the air like a held breath. The audience senses it, social media senses it, and viewers at home hold their collective anticipation. Jennifer responds, carefully measured at first, her voice calm but firm. "It does get exhausting when people decide to judge me for living my life. It's one thing to ask questions. It's another to frame them like I'm some kind of entertainment spectacle." Her words land with weight, cutting through the humor, introducing a moral undertone, the tension between celebrity culture and personal boundaries. The camera cuts to Colbert's reaction. His smile falters just slightly, replaced by a blink, and a subtle shift in posture. "Well, fair enough," he says, attempting to recalibrate the tone, though the edge of tension remains. He gestures toward Jennifer, an almost conciliatory move. "I didn't mean to cross a line." But the audience senses that the line had already been drawn unspoken, yet unmistakable. Social media engagement escalates in real time. Tweets appear on screen, highlighting phrases from Jennifer's response. #Jennifer tells it like it is. Respect her boundaries, and comments dissecting her reaction, praising her for candidly asserting herself. The narrator underscores the stakes. Every second in a live broadcast can be scrutinized, amplified, and turned into global conversation. Jennifer had chosen to reclaim the narrative, challenging the framing of the conversation itself. The interview continues, but the energy is now taut, electric. Jennifer leans slightly forward, a posture signaling both engagement and self-protection. Colbert, sensing the shift, attempts humor to diffuse the rising tension. All right. He jokes lightly. "Maybe I shouldn't provoke the unpredictable star of Hollywood. Don't bite the host. Got it." Laughter trickles through the audience, but it's tentative, layered with unease. The documentary cuts to audience reactions, subtle gasps, quick murmurs, eyes widening at the subtle escalation unfolding on stage. The narration emphasizes the psychology behind such exchanges. Live television is an arena. Hosts, celebrities, and audiences all participate in a delicate, unscripted dance. One misstep can transform the ordinary into a viral sensation. And here, Jennifer Lawrence was fully aware of her environment, the eyes upon her, the expectations, and the consequences of any reaction. A cinematic pause allows viewers to focus on Jennifer's subtle micro-behaviors. A controlled inhale, a brief clenching of her jaw, her hands gripping the edges of the chair just slightly. These minute details, amplified in high-definition cameras, capture the invisible storm brewing. The documentary intersperses slow-motion shots with overlays of online reactions, highlighting how quickly moments on stage translate into global conversation. Finally, Colbert delivers the question that inadvertently seals the chapter's climax. So, when people freak out over something you say, do you ever wish you could just walk away? A beat. The audience senses something is coming. Jennifer sits upright, her eyes locking on Colbert's briefly before scanning the theater, her decision crystallizing in real time. The narrative tension peaks. Millions of viewers, both live and streaming, are unaware of the precise timing, but the energy is unmistakable. The narrator sets the scene for the impending storm. In this instant, every live television host knows the risk, the unpredictability of the human element. And Jennifer, with her unfiltered candor and fierce authenticity, was about to challenge the very framework of this interview. The camera pans across the audience, capturing faces frozen in anticipation, some smiling, some puzzled, others unaware of the social media storm about to ignite. The documentary cuts to backstage, footage of crew members exchanging glances. Producer whispers barely audible over the applause track. The tension is tangible, almost cinematic in its immediacy. Jennifer's decision is now a physical, palpable presence in the theater. Her posture changes subtly, shoulders squared, head held high, as though signaling to the audience that she is about to take control, not just of the interview, but of her own narrative. The chapter concludes with a slow zoom on Jennifer's expression, perfectly balanced between composure and restrained frustration. The narrator's voice rises, dramatic yet measured. This was the moment, the exchange that would ripple across screens, timelines, and conversations worldwide. It was no longer just an interview. It had become a defining moment of authenticity, agency, and human reaction under pressure. And for Jennifer Lawrence, the choice she made next would be seen by millions, dissected by thousands, and remembered as one of the most talked about moments in late-night television history. The air in the Ed Sullivan Theater had shifted. A subtle electricity hummed through the audience, the staff, and the cameras. Jennifer Lawrence, sitting poised moments earlier, now radiated quiet resolve. Every micro-expression, the tightening of her jaw, the slight flaring of her nostrils, the controlled blink spoke volumes. She had endured the pointed questions, the teasing, and the subtle framing of her persona. And now, she was about to reclaim her narrative in a way that would leave millions of viewers worldwide captivated, shocked, and talking. Colbert, sensing the growing tension, attempted a laugh, a mild deflection to soften the moment. All right, Jennifer," he said, leaning back in his chair. "Maybe I should," but his words trailed off. The camera captured a shift in Jennifer's posture. She straightened, her shoulders squared, eyes locking momentarily with Colbert's in a silent exchange that spoke louder than words. The audience watched, mesmerized, unsure whether this was an escalation or a pause. The theater seemed to hold its collective breath. Then, in a motion that seemed both natural and monumental, Jennifer Lawrence rose from her seat. The sequins of her gown caught the stage lights, sparkling with an almost ironic brilliance as she straightened and took a deliberate step toward the side of the stage. The audience gasped audibly, a collective intake of breath echoing through the theater. A few murmurs rippled across the rows. Is she really leaving? What's happening? Did she just... The documentary slows down the footage, capturing the gravity of the moment in cinematic slow motion. Jennifer's stride was purposeful, her expression calm, yet resolute. Colbert, momentarily frozen, attempted to interject, his voice catching. Slightly. "Jennifer, wait. Hold on." But the words fell flat, swallowed by the sudden energy shift. The production crew exchanged startled glances, aware that the segment they had rehearsed and timed down to the second had transformed into something unscripted, raw, and unpredictable. In live television, unpredictability is both the thrill and the terror. And tonight, it had manifested in a moment no one could have anticipated. The narration emphasizes the stakes. Millions were watching live. And in that instant, Jennifer Lawrence took control, not with anger, but with authority, authenticity, and the quiet force of decisiveness. In a world where celebrity is often curated, packaged, and filtered, this was unfiltered reality, and the world noticed. The camera cuts to audience reactions. Hands gripping the edge of seats, jaws dropping, subtle murmurs of surprise, mixing with laughter. Behind-the-scenes footage shows stagehands exchanging rapid, anxious signals, and producers quickly assessing the impact. The audience's focus, however, remained entirely on Jennifer, whose every movement was now magnified by the lens, and soon by the endless feeds of social media. As she exited the stage, the applause swelled, but it was mixed with murmurs of confusion, awe, and intrigue. In live television, the narrator explains, an exit is never just an exit. It's a statement, a punctuation mark on the conversation, and a reflection of both the individual and the broader culture watching them. Jennifer's decision to leave was a reclaiming of space, a reminder that authenticity cannot be negotiated away for the sake of entertainment. Social media exploded almost instantaneously. Twitter feeds lit up with hashtags. Hashtag Jennifer storms off, hashtag Lawrence takes ass, and hashtag live TV drama. Clips from the live broadcast circulated within minutes, retweeted and shared by millions. The moment became a global conversation, trending in dozens of countries within hours. News outlets scrambled to contextualize, analyze, and comment on the event. The documentary overlays these real-time reactions, emphasizing the velocity and magnitude of modern media amplification. Journalists and commentators weighed in immediately, dissecting the exchange. Some praised Jennifer for asserting herself, lauding her authenticity and courage in the face of live scrutiny. Others criticized her as overreacting or breaking the decorum expected in a late-night interview. The narration addresses this duality. In a culture fascinated by celebrity behavior, judgment is swift and often polarized. What one audience sees as bravery, another perceives as rudeness. Yet the act itself, the reclaiming of narrative, cannot be ignored. Colbert, recovering his composure, attempts to steer the segment back on track, lightly chuckling. Well, I suppose we've seen unpredictability firsthand tonight, he quipped, a forced charm masking the undercurrent of tension. The audience responded with scattered laughter, but the atmosphere had irrevocably changed. The story was no longer about the interview itself. It was about the moment Jennifer Lawrence asserted her boundaries. Live, unfiltered, in front of millions. The documentary highlights expert commentary. Media analysts note the significance of such moments in the digital age. One expert explains, live television, amplified by social media, allows celebrities to control narratives in real time, but it's risky. Jennifer's exit was calculated, deliberate, and culturally resonant. It sparked discussions about authenticity, respect, and the boundaries between public figures and their audiences. The camera lingers on Jennifer's expression as she walks off stage calm, confident, yet undeniably human. Her eyes reflect a mixture of relief, determination, and subtle defiance. The audience, initially shocked, begins to applaud, recognizing the bravery inherent in choosing one's own path, even when millions are watching. The narrator underscores this emotional resonance. In that walk, there was a story far larger than an interview. There was agency, courage, and a reminder that sometimes the most profound statements are made not through words, but through action. The documentary then explores the ripple effect. Late-night clips, news coverage, and social media debates dominate timelines. Meme culture seizes the moment GIFs of Jennifer's determined stride, still frames of her narrowed eyes, and reactions of Colbert flooded platforms. Journalists dissect the exchange, social media users debate the nuances, and entertainment outlets offer commentary on the psychology of celebrity behavior in live broadcasts. The moment transcends the immediate setting, becoming a case study in human behavior under scrutiny.